Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage, where it is raining. And it's going to probably rain for the rest of the week. Oh, man. Not what I wanted to see. You know, you never want to have rain like on a daily basis, but it's part of it. You know, it's been warm, pretty warm weather here, pretty humid. And I guess we've been kind of lucky it hasn't rained any more than it has, but it is raining. And I think it's supposed to rain all through the night and tomorrow and just be a mess. So anyway, let's talk about cars tonight. How about that? So, if you're your first time coming to see this little live stream we do, I do this on Monday nights at 7 and Thursday nights at 3, Thursday afternoon at 3, I should say. And we try to talk about cars and problems and questions and answers and whatever we can come up with to help people out. Sometimes people have a question they can't find, and they ask the right people. They get a different answer or a better answer than what they might find on the general internet. So that being said, we'll see how this goes tonight. I know that I've had trouble in the past with my Wi-Fi, and we've talked about this, and I know I talk about it, and sometimes it fades out and it comes back. So hang in there. If it fades out, it'll come back. Another thing I want to tell you, my garage has a bit of exhaust fumes in it right now. So hopefully it doesn't get to me too much. I was doing some work on the car, and I'm playing with the gauges, and in that process you need to make sure things function. So I had to start the car, had it running, checking this, checking that, and before I knew it, it was pretty smoky in here. So I had the door open and I had the fan on and I was clearing it out. I can still smell it a little bit. So if you see me kind of like pass out, Roger, come on over and pick me up. I should be okay, I hope. But let's see who's here tonight. Crash Rider, good evening from cooler Southern Indiana. Just place an Amazon order on Joe Daddy's page. Be sure to hit the like button when signing in. I'll give you 2 bells for that. Thank you, Crash Rider. Roger checking in from Soggy next door. Yep. It is definitely soggy. Wally checking in from the Great White North, where it's the dog days of summer, 80 to 90 degrees. Ooh, yeah. I know that's pretty warm up there. Pretty warm up there. The thing is, normally here in Georgia, we would have temperatures in the 90s regularly. It hasn't been that bad, but I know my parents live up in Pennsylvania, and they're having, like a major heat. Word looked like they were having a major heat wave up there. So it's kind of bizarre how that's playing out right now. Brian, hello to everyone from Idaho. Got my hat and sticker berry. Thanks again for those. I will enjoy them for years, I'm sure. Well, I'm glad you got them. I know it was a little bit delayed on getting that sent out, but I'm glad you got them. And now Brian knows, I think I should have sent him a sample. He knows exactly what this color is. He should, right? Didn't I send you a little piece of foam with the paint on it? Hopefully. I thought I did. Roger, it was great for the geese in the front yard earlier. Yeah. Note to self. Yep. Yeah, if you see me just kind of clunk, come open the door. Robert, hello all. Glad you're here. Leonard, evening evening, and from a hot, high desert, 110 degrees. Yeah, but there's no humidity. Just think about that. There's no humidity. Lane Carroll, afternoon from hot California. Love your channel. Well, thank you, Lane. I think that's the first I've seen, at least seen a comment, I think. So I'll give you a bell, Lane. I'll give you a Lane bell. You're the first person I've seen named Lane. And I guess, I don't know if you've been here before or not, but that's the first time I think you've commented. So glad you're here. Richard, most of the heavy rain went west of us. We sent it to you. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely here, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to say Peter Anguiano. Luckily, it's 108 over here. Ooh. 108. Yeah. Brian, you did send that. I didn't know what it was. I'll take another look. Yeah, I had done this before where I don't know where I put the pieces. From when I painted the car, I had used some foam in the door gap, and that's what I sent. So the color sample that is on the foam is what color the car is. So I sent that out to Brian and Nick and somebody else. I sent out 3 hats and some stickers. Somebody ordered some stickers from me too. So anyway, they should all have gotten a little piece of that foam. Welder 4956. Good evening, all. Glad you're here. Michael Pagliarini. That's my guess. Hello from Rhode Island. Glad you're here. Troy Justit. Good evening to all. Bob Shoemaker. A bit late, but made it. Well, that's okay. You're not that late. It's only, we're only in here about 6.5, 7 minutes. Anyway, so I hope we have some good things to talk about tonight. I know for me, it's a little dry right now, as far as what's going on, because my focus is getting narrower on what's left of the car. I edited a video earlier today where I covered the package tray, and that'll be out tomorrow. So I'll release that tomorrow. There's another one I need to edit on the washer pump for, that it mounted to the floor. So I need to edit that one so I can get it up. And there's a couple more, but I'm obviously working on more videos as I go. Now, the next thing I'm working on, what I'm trying to get done, is the gauge cluster. Yeah, the Dakota digital gauges. So I started on that a couple days ago, and it's progressing. Wiring is not my favorite thing. I'll just put it that way. But I can do it, and I will do it. I just have to get my mind right and make sure that I'm comfortable when I'm doing that stuff, because, one thing wrong can mess up the whole system. So I'm trying to be very careful and make sure that I'm getting all the wiring in place. So let me see who else is here. Stephen Jolly, hi from Sydney, Australia. Love your channel. Oh, I'm glad you're here. That looks like a new name too. I have not seen that name before. So welcome. Glad you're here. 65 Gamer Guy, hello from Missouri. Glad you're here. And Leonard is saying hi to all from down under. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised we have some people from Australia here, because normally they would show up on like Thursday. But that's fine. That's cool. The more the merrier. The more the merrier. Now, as I was, I'm working on the gauge cluster. And I'm trying to go into detail on this. I know several people have asked me about the Dakota Digital setup, and I don't know if I haven't looked to see if anybody. A lot of times I don't look to see if somebody else has made a video. I just do my own thing and see how it goes. And sometimes I've had people give me grief because I will do it from opening the package and moving forward and going through the process. But I think that's normal. I think that's how we all do it, right? If I made it look real simple, like I went through and read everything and pre-practiced putting everything together, it's not realistic. So I try to do a realistic approach to when I do these things. And, there's a few things that I was confused by with the gauge cluster. My mind was thinking one thing, and it was completely different in how it was going to go. But it worked out, and it's going fine. One thing I will point out, and I actually posted this on my Patreon earlier today. One thing that I hate to do is, if I have something that's in good condition, it's functional, it works, I hate to modify that. I really do. I want to keep it the way it is as long as I possibly can. And I see my little Wi-Fi thing is acting up. But anyway, I'm going to keep going on. So what happens, with this setup, you have to connect part of the Dakota Digital setup to your original wiring. And I'm going over this in detail with the video that I'm making, because this is something you don't think about. Okay, so when you look at the gauge cluster, you've got a speedometer, a tachometer, an oil pressure, and water temperature, and fuel gauge, right? Well, those all make sense. The water temperature, the oil pressure, the tach, and the speedo are all digital inputs that you get, with the system. So you change out your oil pressure sensor, your temperature sensor. You change out your speedometer cable when you put in a separate drive unit that's now electric, and then the tach, which hooks to the ground wire on your coil. So you do all that. But this gauge cluster, when you're changing things out, you're also taking into account the turn signals, the high beam indicator, the fuel sending unit, and the gauges, the light up of the gauges themselves. Well, the system they give you doesn't directly interconnect with your existing wiring harness. What I wish they would do, and I think they should do, is the factory pigtails, from your big underdash wiring harness. They should provide. I don't know, and they may do it. I don't know for sure. I looked and I didn't see anything. But to connect from one to the other, you need, a male to female pigtail and vice versa. So what I ended up doing, and I hated to do this, I had to cut the wiring harness it was in the cluster, my original cluster. Of course, that cluster is all screwed up. That gauge cluster is all taken apart and it's a mess. But to make those connections, I had to cut the wires because I have to connect the plug-in. You can't I'm not going to cut into the main harness, the $800 harness that you don't want to cut into. The gauge cluster, it's $130 for that wiring harness. Yeah, that's still a big chunk of money. But either I would have to buy a brand new wiring harness and cut it up, or I cut up the old wiring harness, and if I need to, I can buy a replacement one that's in good shape. So just some things that you don't really think about. At this point, I do have it in the car. I don't have it in the dash. I wired everything up, and I have it sitting on the floor. I was able to connect things, fire it up. Now there's still some troubleshooting I'm going to have to go through. I know I have the lights working for the gauges. They light up. I know I had the clock show up and a voltage show up from the fuel sender. I didn't run it long enough to get a temperature, so I don't know what that's going to do just yet. And then I didn't get a fuel indication because there's some calibration you have to do with that. And the other thing that I didn't see was the tach. I didn't see it pop up yet. And maybe I don't have it, fully connected right yet. So I have to look at some of that. But it looks nice. It really does. And once I get it all in there, which it's going to be it's a snug fit. The original gauges are a snug fit to begin with. But now, even though it's electronic, there's a secondary module that mounts to the backside, or mounts behind the gauges, that you have to plug into, and it's actually a Cat 5 cable that plugs in between the two. But it's coming along, and I think it's going to work out pretty good. Let's see, Troy. Let me see. He sent me a picture. Hold on. I'm going to download that real quick. Okay, so Troy says he sent you a picture of my clutch pedal install. The spring pulls the clutch back to the firewall. Does it look right to you or anyone out there? So let me pull that picture up real quick. Because I don't have a good visual on the clutch pedal. What it needs to look like. So give it a second here. It's uploading into the. Here we go. So you're saying that the spring pulls the clutch back to the firewall. Well, I mean, for me, I can't. The picture's pretty small for me, for what I'm seeing right now. Um, the picture has me kind of confused because it looks like is that like a reverse image or something? Because your clutch pedal is on the left. Somebody give some feedback on that because I can't really make an assessment on it right now. Harvey might be able to give us some input. Let me see what Leonard says. Leonard, I tried to wire in an amp gauge on my 57 Ford and burned out the harness. Yep. Yeah, and it makes me uncomfortable. Wiring. I mean, it just does. Steve checking in. Footage Factory. Harvey is here. Glad you're here. Bob Shoemaker. I spent 3.5 hours wiring up a set of classic gauges in my buddy's 58 GMC. Wiring is tough. Yeah. It takes time. So I'm gonna pull this picture down first. Well, let me see here. Wally is commenting. He says, Troy, the helper spring will pull the pedal down if the linkage is not connected. There is a tipping point where it will pull down. Spring looks good. Okay. I would take Wally's word for that. He knows. Come on, Bell. There we go. Thank you, Wally. Let me pull that picture down for a second. Okay. So thank you, Wally, for that input. Steve, quick question off topic to your dash situation, which I want you to keep talking about because I love the info. Have you ran brake lines yet? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got the car, beyond the wiring of the instrument stuff, it's drivable. All the brake lines are run. So if you haven't seen that, you can go back. I did when I did the conversion, I put it in disc brakes. Um, I did a video on all that stuff, and I can't say it was as detailed as a lot of the stuff I do because it was really hard to film some of that because with the brake booster and master cylinder and the combination valve that I put in, I had to make all the lines. The only line that I could use was the one that went across the firewall. That was it. Everything else I just threw away and had to make it all myself. Okay, so Leonard is saying that's what it's supposed to do for the pedal. Good. Thank you, Leonard. Yeah, Troy, left side of the firewall attached to the left side of the picture attached to the firewall. Okay, yeah. Brian, I want to run a factory TAC in my 69 Fairlane. I'm running Petronix ignition. Does anyone know where I can get a TAC input from? As I understand, I cannot pick up the coil because of the Petronix. You should still be able to pick up from. Well, I'm not familiar with Petronix, so I don't know. I'm not sure on the what Petronix offers, but they should tell you in a kit. Like Petronix should tell you, the wiring diagram should say TAC connection. Because like let's say on the old GM distributors, you had this big chunky distributor cap. On the distributor itself, it had a TAC connection. It actually said TAC on it, so you could plug it in. So I would hope Petronix has something in place to let you know. That's a different name. Solar. I don't know. Hey, what do you think of the Fox body? I like them. I do. I like the Fox body cars. I mean, you talk about a small car that you can put a lot of power in and have fun. Yeah, I like Fox bodies, but I'm more of a fan of the older stuff. When I say that, like 80s and 90s Fox body stuff. Just if that's what we're referring to, I like those, the little boxy ones. Troy says, thanks all. Okay. Harvey says, Wally is 100%. Wally is 100% correct. Good. Marshall, howdy folks. Barry and Brian, look into your specific TAC application, but I'm having to run a TAC adapter to get the MST to talk to the same language as the TAC wants to see. Okay. Well, I know in the kit that I'm using for the Dakota Digital, it says in the instructions, connect to the negative coil, negative side of the coil. So I've done that. I've done that. And I know I've connected it. So I need to figure out what's going on. Of course, I am kind of playing around with it intermittently because I've got I don't have it grounded, like permanently grounded yet, because I want to get everything checked out while it's on the floor of the car before I bolt it into the dash, because it would just really suck to bolt everything in and turn the key and nothing lights up. That would really suck. So I'm going to, you know, make sure everything works on the floor or on the floor of the car before I do all the bolting. Leonard, until you get the clutch linkage in the spring on the equalizer, until you get the clutch linkage in, the spring on the equalizer will keep the pedal up. Okay. Thank you, Leonard. Jerry checking in from the Money Pit in Middle Tennessee. Glad you're here. Steve, also, did you remove the windshield wiper motor and mechanism? And if so, are you going to reinstall and document that? I did not remove it for anything, any other than paint. And all I did at that point was, there's 3 bolts that hold it to the cowl. And basically, all I did is undo those 3 bolts and pulled it back, taped off the hole, and left everything sit there, and then bolt everything back in. So I did not remove. You don't have to take it all the way out. There's no reason to take it all the way out. It's not fun to take it out. You know, if you're going to do it, you may end up having to fight with other things in the way. I know right now underneath the dash, that's another thing. Good things. Steve brought that up. That's another thing I did with the wiper. Before I committed to locating the module for the wiper, for the Dakota Digital setup, because I needed to find a place that it would fit. And my mind is saying, well, maybe it'll fit here, maybe it'll fit there. And then you start looking at it and you go, oh, wait a minute. There's a windshield wiper arm right there. How much travel does that have, and what are the limits? So I hooked up the switch, turned it on, checked the wiper movement, to see the arm movement. And sure enough, it was moving over and hitting my AC tubing that I put in for the vintage air. So I had to readjust that. And it let me know the limitations of that space, because it's kind of weird when you think about it. You look at these cars in the era they're from, all kinds of wiring up underneath the dash and ductwork and different things. And there's a mechanical arm in there that's just swinging back and forth. It's like, could you not have come up with a better idea? But that's how they did it. They just had this arm, motor rotating and swinging this arm back and forth. So it's a wonder more of these cars didn't have problems with wiring or ductwork. But they obviously had figured things out. Said, well, we can tuck this here and strap that there, and things work. But I had to do all that. I had to do a real good mock-up of that stuff to make sure where I could put that module. And I did find a location, and I'll talk about that, and it'll show up in the video when I make the video. But I should, unless I've done something wrong or something bugs out on me, I should have the cluster in tomorrow. Should. Now there's one more thing I need to do before I get to the actually putting the cluster all the way in. And that thing is, I've got to wire, I've got to get the mirrors. Well, I may have to do some other things now that I think about it, because I've got to get the wire for the mirrors, because I have the turn signal built into the mirrors. I'm going to have to tuck that in and get it through the A-pillar, which I've already drilled the holes for all that. It's all there. I've already planned all that. But that has to be connected to that module as well, so that when the turn signals blink, it lights up the mirrors respectively. So good thing we're bringing this up. I need to think about all these things. Mason wanted to ask you, do you have any old signs you can send me, or no? Just was wondering, if any said you can send me that I could put up in my grandpa's shop. Nope. I don't. I have seen signs at the scrap metal place. Sometimes the city throws out bent signs and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have anything in that area, your area, where they scrap out old, railroad crossing signs or anything like that. But I don't have anything I can send you. Sorry. JT, hi Barry, just checking in. Always looking forward to your live chat. Well, cool. And that's I guess Dodge Challenger, JT73. That's a amalgamation, isn't it, of letters? Dave, good evening, all. Yep. First Dave bell. Roger pointed that out. Thank you, Roger. Robert Bloxham. My 67 Mustang Coupe never had a torque box on the right side. Do you have to remove the floor to install the torque box? I'll say no, but be prepared to take it apart. Like the torque box, I would not put it in one piece. If you bought the one piece, pre-welded together, don't even try it. Drill out the spot weld or drill out the welds. You have to prep the underside of the car, get the upper half in. And the upper half is actually welded to the floor pan. So once you get it in place, before you fully put it in place, you might want to drill some holes into the floor pan. I wouldn't drill through the torque box. I would drill into the floor pan, the kick-up panel. And when you put it in place, kind of press those two together and weld those holes together. Then you have to weld it to the frame rail and the floor support. And yeah, you can get it in. And then you take the lower half and weld it to it. So yeah, you can do it without taking the floor out. My opinion, but I know I can do it. 65 Gamer Guy sent you 2 photos of the Cougars I own. If you want to show them, if not, okay. I don't want to hijack your video. Oh no, let me see what we got. Let's see. Let me download these real quick. And Robert sent me a picture of a sign, but I don't know if I'm going to load that one up or not. Let me get these 2. Give me just a second. You got to let the satellite, make the connection and jump back and forth. All right, so there's one Cougar. Ooh, that's sharp. I've always been kind of, I don't know if on the fence is the right term about Cougars. I know it's more upscale version of the Mustang, which it, pretty much is. And just certain ones I really like, and other ones I just kind of, okay. That looks good. And there's the other one. Now, what year's the blue one? I don't know what year that one is. That one has a bigger, or the more, I don't know, like what year they changed the shape of the hood, if I'm seeing that right. And the center grille seems a little different, but I'll let you tell me. Let's see. Let me go back up here a little bit. I'm going to pull this picture off for a second. Go back to comments. And Robert has checked in. The Infernal Craftsman, glad you're here. Mason Fox, we have a junkyard. Oh, well, okay. Steve, I'm heading back to the States in a few weeks. I'm going to be watching your videos nonstop, pushing through to get the 65 done. Wiring, wiper motors, engine training. Oh, geez, it's going to be go time. Cool. Good. There's plenty of stuff to watch. Rick, I decided to stream the live stream on my large television in my living room. Okay. Hope that's working. Robert bought the 2-piece. Okay, good. Now, I don't know what brand you bought, because I know that Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, did a video on his he put in torque boxes, and I know he had to do a lot of work to those things, but I don't know what the branding was. So just know that. Steve, dude, I'm live streaming my big TV in the living room too. Wife is sleeping. Barry's face is huge. It is huge. It's always been huge. It's a big melon. No matter how you look at it, it's a big melon. It's a big melon. Brian at Mason, just so you know, if you're starting a collection, they do sell reproduction old signs fairly cheap. Would be something to get you started. Yeah, that's a good point. So Robert, send a pic of. Oh, okay. I'll download that because that is even though it's sideways, Robert. It's sideways, but that's okay. It'll still work. People will still see it because it's you don't see these in people's garages. These kind of signs very often. So let's see if it'll pop up. Gonna let the little clock wind. It's coming. It's coming. I swear. All right, let me see what else we have for comments. It doesn't want me to download that one. It doesn't want me to upload it, I should say. With the ridiculous connection that I have. Anyway, I don't know if I'm still being seen or not. Let's see if I can do something here. It's not working. It's not working. Okay. We have to skip over that. Anyway, Robert sent me a picture of a Wendy's sign that he has from the restaurant. So sorry, Robert. It won't let me load it. Dave would like to apologize to anyone Northeast that heard of my cursing tirade yesterday afternoon while attempting to remove an O2 sensor from my old Jeep. It was unavoidable. Cool. Robert, both are nice. Yes. Talking about the Cougars. Yes, I agree. Turn it off. 65 game of the blue one is a 1970. Okay. All right. Now I got my thing back. Let's see if it'll do it. Let me see if it'll do it. I want to show Robert's picture and drink some coffee. Okay. Here we go. You don't see that very often. At least you don't see that hanging in a garage. So that's a cool sign. Thank you, Robert. All right. Edward. What's up, JJ? Have you ever welded the rounded shock tower bracket brace to the rest of the apron? There's usually a large gap between the two. Does that increase body stiffness? Let's see. The rounded shock tower brackets to the rest of the apron. The rounded shock tower bracket brace. There's usually a large gap between the two. Does that increase the body stiffness? Shock tower bracket brace. What year model car are you talking about? Maybe I'm confused. I'm thinking my mind is thinking a different model car. But no, I have not. I have not welded that, and I don't know that it would gain any body stiffness if it is an existing bracket or brace that's already in a location. I don't know that it would help. So usually you need something that's going to triangulate to make things stiffer, basically. Gavin the Champ, is there a trick for removing the window trim on a 69 Mustang? The one small rear window. Oh, you're talking about the quarter glass? Oh, I don't remember. I did a 70 fastback 8-9 years ago, and I replaced those pieces or removed those pieces and put them back in. But I don't remember what the sequence was. That's been so long ago. I don't remember. Sorry. Robert, I had the old style Spectra Premium. The new ones are better. I must have missed that. Whatever that was about. Steve, love the Cougar picks. Just removed the driver's quarter over here in Sharpsburg. Okay, cool, good. Steve, internet is messing up, kind of like watching a Biden speech. Yeah. 65. Steve Newsom, thanks. I really like them myself. Yes, they're nice cars. Edward, any Mustangs? Shock towers have about a half-inch gap, usually between the apron. Oh, you're talking. I'm trying to visualize exactly what you're referring to, because you're talking down at the bottom. I don't know. I'd have to look at it a little harder. Robert, couldn't let it end up in the dumpster. It would have had the entire lighted sign, but it was about 20 feet long and 7 feet tall. I'll collect stuff if we buy that airport. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Michael, I found the measurements for my rear frame rails from 3 different sources. All 3 are different and none match the car. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. The there's a lot of variables, and people have made measurement charts and different things like that. And I've talked about it before. A lot of times, I don't focus on. I try not to focus too much on actual measurements, because I don't trust what's there. I'd rather, like if I'm putting quarters on a car or something like that, I'm more concerned with how the exterior of the car is, how things fit, versus how this is going to be located. Like, this is off a quarter inch. What do I do? Well, I'm going to have to adjust the quarter to make it fit, and then correct whatever is wrong on the other side. So anyway, I'm not surprised the measurements are off. It's always kind of a gamble. Yep. Dave, Steve, is a window trim on a 70 different than a 65 to 68? Removing it, it is. We're talking about, because on the 69 and 70, the quarter window right here, it has a piece that comes around, and it curves, and it's a cast piece. It's like pot metal, and it's like screwed in somehow, because the windows don't go up and down. They're a pop out vent window. So that piece is a totally different design than what these cars have in the 69 and 70. Brian, if Edward is talking about the upper shock mount, then he doesn't want to weld that, as it needs to be removed to pull the coil spring. Okay, so you're talking about, oh, you're talking about the shock, where the shock mounts? If that's the case, no, you don't want to weld that. Arthur Woodward checking in. Glad you're here. Dave, hey, nice hat. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Edward, sorry, from the inside of the engine bay, both shock towers, front and back, have a gap in them from the factory that I've seen welded fully to the apron. Okay. I mean, it's it's probably not going to help as much as you might think. A lot of time, like I said, it's more about, to me, it's more about triangulation stuff that you can add in that'll help stiffen things. Now, granted, you can, from a visual standpoint, when you're looking at stuff that has a gap or a space or something, you have to look at where it's at. Is it on a plane that has no effect? Like let's say the frame rail from the firewall forward to the shock tower, that section between the two, there's really nothing there that's going to change how it functions. You got to look at what, like let's say the frame rail's coming up. What do I do to stop it from moving up and down, type of thing, versus I'm on a straight plane, both pieces are next to each other. Yeah, it could help, but I'd be more interested in reinforcing the shock tower itself at the top. Again, triangulation. That's why they put those cross braces in. I know we had some pictures that Dawn, if you haven't looked, I haven't looked at his YouTube channel, Dawn's Manufactory, where he put in extra bracing underneath the fenders. So, it was really kind of neat what he did. So I can't say that it would help much. And Wally's saying, if Edward's worried about the movement of the towers, I would recommend the Monte Carlo bar. That's, good suggestion, Wally. Good suggestion. Let's see. Arthur, the fastback pops out, the coupe rolls down. Yes, talking about the quarter windows. Any ideas on how to stop oil leak on a rear main seal on the 351 Cleveland? New seal from local auto stores leak as much as the bad ones, or probably as much as the old ones. Yeah. I don't have any suggestions personally. If somebody else has a good suggestion on that, by all means share it. But I don't have a good suggestion on that. Steve, hey, what engine do you have in that car? Never to ask or see on the video. Well, where have you been, man? That's a 302. There's actually a video that I did on the. I fired it up and I did a break-in on it several years ago. But it's a 302. It was a factory 289 car, and the engine that I had for the car was no good. So a buddy of mine built a 302 for me, and it's really a really nice little engine. But yeah, it's 302. Okay. Edward says, all right, sounds good. Yep, you're welcome. Steve, on the channel. And changing the subject again. I installed the quarter window in the 65, but got rid of regulator and used a bolt to fix the window in place. What do you think of the window fixed? It doesn't really matter. If it works for you, it works. That's about all I can say. I've seen that done in like drag cars and stuff where they fix the windows in the cars and get rid of all the mechanism. If it works, it works. Not something I would probably do, but I'm not against it. It's not on my agenda. So, Brian, what in those areas could create stress points and cause cracking, plus would yield little results in stiffness? Thank you. That's what I was trying to say, Brian. It's the fumes. I've got the fumes in here that are just not helping my brain right now. Austin, have you seen people do it both ways with body filler over door gaps? Some use razors and paint stick and cut as a filler sets. You cut the gaps with a wheel after it's set, which is easier. Depends on your skills. I'll just say that. I mean, I've seen people do it with a tape. I've seen people do it with a string, where they actually have a string behind the filler. And whenever they get then you can sense it is starting to harden up or cure. They pull that string out and at least gets the cut line in there. The risk is when you use a cut wheel, you could damage the car. You could damage the metal. You could damage the quarter panel, the door. So it just takes you have to really know where you're cutting when you do that sort of thing. But I've seen it done a variety of ways. Now, normally I try to get cut the gap and then sand it down with a sanding disc or a stiff block, Durablock. Get the angle that I want, get the gap that I want. I'll even put paper on a paint stick and sand the gap to make it more consistent. So, But you have to be willing to take that risk if you're using the cutoff wheel. Just saying. Razor and even the string, you're not going to really do much. But the string, I know the string idea works. I just haven't done that. Edward, is there a way I could send you a pic? Yeah, you can send it to me on send it to my email at the bottom of the screen. JoeDaddy'sGarage@gmail.com. And we can go from there. Hurst, sure you put the seal in the right way. Okay, talking about the crankshaft seal. That's a good question. That is a good question. Because I know people that have done it the wrong way and it doesn't work. So that's a good question. 2732, I have paint questions. When you buy new panels, do you have to sand the black paint off down to metal? Another is when I put epoxy on my bare metal, do I sand it or put the high build primer on? Okay. We've got a couple of ways to answer that. And I think Robert has already, he's got it. Robert has said EDP coating is great when done right, but often parts have poorly applied coatings. Test and inspect and make a decision if you think it isn't adhered well. Now, I'll give you what my thoughts. I used to leave the coating on. I used to. And then I read some things and I looked at some things and I found people were commenting that they found where they had sanded on the EDP coating and they found rust underneath it. So again, it depends on how well it was applied, from the factory. Generally, at least on the exterior, I sand all that off. I strip it down. I don't want any of that stuff on there. I want to know, what I have. From there, you apply epoxy to bare metal, clean bare metal. Now, if you look at your instructions for your epoxy, it'll tell you specifically what your recoat window is. So what that means is you should have like a data sheet, and it'll tell you have a certain amount of time before a certain amount of time where you can add more filler before you have to sand it. In my case, my PVG epoxy that I use, I have a 4-day window. So it says, within 4 days, if I remember correctly, I think it's 4 days. If within 4 days you can spray primer on it and it'll adhere to it, it'll bond to it. I still sand it. Even if it's, if it's been 3 days, I still sand it. I want to scuff it up a little bit, clean it, and spray, primer on top of it. Just the way I do things. So primarily I'll say, look at your data sheet and see what it tells you. And again, the different manufacturers may have different time limits for that sort of thing. So Bob, offsetting the parting lines of the seal helps a lot on leakage. Oh, offsetting the parting lines. Okay, yeah. So if it's a 2-piece seal, instead of having it mate with the parting line of the cap and the block, you're talking about indexing it slightly off so that the gap of the seal is not on plane with the gap of the block. That's what you're saying, right? Index it slightly if you can. And there's Robert. That's his response there. Austin, can you show us how to determine gear ratio? I don't know if I can show you how to determine gear ratio. I know that there's probably websites that'll point you directly to that. Gear ratio from a general terms, let's say, is how many times, let's say your drive shaft is turning, right? And your axle is turning in relation to the drive shaft. The number of teeth on the pinion and the number of teeth on the ring gear create a ratio. Basically, you could have anything from like 273 to 650, whatever. And all that means is for every rotation of the drive shaft, then your wheel rotates in relation to that. So, so if it's like, let's just say it's a 300, like in this car, it's a 310 gear, 310 gear. So the pinion gear has 10 teeth on it, and the ring gear on the axle has 31 teeth. So basically, it's just a ratio. For this thing turns 3 times for every turn of the drive shaft. No, I take that back. Yeah, this turns 1 time. The drive shaft turns 3 times. Okay. So that's why it's really hard to explain it, but I know there's pictures and diagrams out there that can help you with that. Derek, hi, Barry, everyone. Hope you're all well. Jade's Jade's coming along. Great, nice work. Thank you. Glad you're here. Austin, problem with the string through the filler is that the string won't follow body lines and curves. Yeah, that is true. That is true. And generally, the string, like I said, I've seen people do it where they put it behind the filler, and when they lay the filler on and then pull the string through it, and it just creates a quick gap. That's all it really does. It just helps create a quick gap. It doesn't follow the shape that you would expect it to. You're right. Doyle looking to fix the space where the lead was on the car sail panel, A-pillar to roof, all metal or fiber polyester filler. In a lot of times, what I've used is short strand fiberglass is what I've used. Now there are other options out there. They have the metal filler. It has metal in it, and I've heard good things about that. I've tried that, I think, once or twice. I can't think of this exact name of it, but I've used short strand fiberglass. Obviously, scuff the metal. Make sure it's scratched up real good so it bites into it and hangs on. But I've used that before. Jack, yep, thank you, Jack. It is a nice hat. 220 grit on epoxy. Well, yeah. I mean, 220 would work. It depends on what you're trying to get done. Like, if you have to add, if you're adding primer, that's one thing. If you're adding body filler, it's another. You can use 220 if everything is good. I've used 180 a lot. I just like 180. It gives it a little deeper scratch and hangs on. So, but 220 would work. Hurst, after the primer, did you spray epoxy again? In my case, no. No, I only use epoxy to bare metal. That's all I do. Now, they do make a epoxy sealer that you can spray on top of primer before you spray paint. And generally, I don't do that, but you can do that. Edward sent the pic of a welded shock tower on a Mustang. I'm sure it must help a good amount once welded. All right, let's get a look at what we're referring to. Let me pull that picture in. Give me a second. Whoops. Yeah, I think I'm still smelling fumes in here. Gotta open the door a little more air in. Okay, so you're talking. Yeah, I mean that's. The reason that is happening. Generally, when I see people, those kind of welds, they're trying to avoid cracks, or, stress cracks. Now, if it's effective, I'm assuming it is. I've never tried it, but I could see where you could benefit from that. It depends on what you're doing too. Like, are you going to be racing this car, taking it out and, drag racing or road course stuff? I mean, that comes into play too, because If you're just generally driving the car, it's probably not going to help, much at all. Just to be honest. Okay, Bob Shoemaker, I got a yep for something. 220 grit epoxy with guide code. Also, thank you. Do you have a video upload of the epoxy sanding and body? Oh yeah, I got plenty of videos on body filler, epoxy, high build, paint. Just you have to really just click on those. Do some searching on my channel, and that'll guide you there. I have several. Bob, floating edge of seal always towards what you are sealing. Yep. Basically, it's like a reverse flap, let's say. You don't want the flap facing out. You want the flap facing in. Brian is saying for gear ratio, first look for a tag. Yep, that'll help. Her scrambled aluminum filler worked good for me. It will flex. Okay. Thank you for that. Derek, a lot of shops use tape to follow the lines when filling and sanding. Do top of tape first, reapply, then lower section. Lots of videos with that also. I've never used tape like that. I know I do a lot of, like I did one of my better videos with a higher number of views is that body repair tips and tricks or something like that, where I fixed the fender on that little silver car. And when you have complex body lines, like on that car, I've had people say, yeah, to use tape and, use this. And I can't do it. I mean, I'm not, my mind doesn't work that way. I work in individual planes. So if a fender has, a flat plane and a, index coming in like this, I'll work this surface to get it flat. And then I work this down to it and create the point or the contact point. And then I sand the contact point. So that's just kind of how I approach it. But I've seen people use tape, but I've not done it. Michael, mark the pinion, white line, mark your drum. Or mark your drum with a white line, turn the drum and watch the line on the pinion. Count the times it turns for one turn on the drum, divide the number, and that's the ratio. There you go. That's a good way to put it. Rick Stevenson says, hello, everyone. Weren't you here earlier, Rick? Did we miss you earlier? I thought you were here earlier. Maybe not. Edward, okay, I guess welding the shock tower is a little overkill. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's if you're just driving a car and there's nothing wrong with it as far as that, how it's functioning right now, it's overkill. It is. I've seen where cars have cracked like that, have had issues, but a lot of times it was where a car was abused, it was either drag raced or road raced or whatever. And a lot of torque and force comes into play in that case and can cause problems. But yeah, I can't really say it would be worth it. So anyway, okay. So Rick's saying, nope, we just got here. Okay. Yeah. I thought you were here earlier. Sorry. Derek, I haven't done tape either. And some videos way too much filler for my liking. Yeah, I know. I go through filler. No, I say I go through filler. Most of my filler ends up on the floor. I'll just be honest. I put it on there and I sand it and I work it down to as far as I need to and add more filler if I need to. But I just, I don't know. I just kind of how I do it. If I end up most of it on the floor and it looks good, I'm okay with that. Doyle, is it better to put epoxy over bare metal or can you put on 2K on bare metal? I would rather put epoxy down first. I think you can go to 2K, but epoxy seals everything up. It makes it so much better. Again, check the data sheet. Research it. If it tells you can do it, okay, that's one thing. But still, I would rather put epoxy on first and not have to think about it, not have to worry about it. Troy, remember to hit the thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Troy. Willie Goodman checking in. Glad you're here. Derek, exactly. The less the better. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll put a lot of filler on, but I can tell you I end up with piles on the floor because it's just I would rather, if you got I don't want to put on like a half inch thick and start sanding it down. I may end up putting in, an eighth of an inch, somewhere a little around an eighth of an inch, depending on where I'm at. And if I knock most of that off to get it all flat and even, fine. It's all sacrificial. It doesn't matter to me. Let's see. Her scrambler, a bar welded in from shock tower to shock tower would be more beneficial. Not a bar welded in, no. But you can put a Monte Carlo bar in, which is a bolt-in piece that goes between the towers. You don't want to weld something in there because, well, multiple reasons. But if you need to work on the engine, you don't want a welded in bar that's going to be in your way, especially if you have to pull the engine back out, something like that. You definitely don't want to have something welded. That was a thing they did. Like the 55 Chevy that I had, they old school to get the engine out, engine and transmission together, they would actually cut the core support where the radiator mounted. They would just lop it off, pull the engine kind of straight forward and out. And then when they were done, they'd put it back in and weld the core support back in, the top half. I just hated that. I just hated that. Never liked that. Derek, love the gauges you fitted the J. Just give it that subtle modern touch. Yeah, and it's getting close. I was talking about earlier. I've got them in the car, or at least are on the floor, and I'm going through the wiring sequence so that everything works before I assemble it. I said it earlier. I don't want to put that thing, bolt everything up, go, oh, okay, it's great, shove it in, put all the screws in, and hit the key, and nothing works. So I do all the extra, do it all inside the passenger area to make sure that it's all going to function. Nick is here. Hello. Got a pretty sweet hat the other day. Nice. And you also got a color sample. You should have gotten a color sample of jade so that you can see exactly what color this is. I hope you found it. Robert, there was a brace welded on the outside of the shock tower against the frame rail that works and keeps that area from rusting. There was a brace on the outside of the shock tower. Okay. If we're talking about the welding question. Rick, it would be nice if the core support were a bolt-in. Will definitely be beneficial when removing the engine. Yeah, it is. It would be, but unfortunately, these cars are all, spot welds. Spot welds everywhere. So the whole premise of this car was to be one giant interconnected piece of metal. That's what they did. Derek, good idea. Then just plug and play. Yeah. I mean, it only makes sense. You make sure it works on the floor, because once you put it in, you don't want to pull it back out. I hate redoing things. Y'all know that. I hate redoing things. Mike Chandler, Tennessee. Okay. I guess that's where you're at. Glad you're here, Mike. Edward, I know what you're talking about. They used to do it on the Boss Mustang. Yes. Yeah, they used to add in on the Boss Mustangs. Yes, that's correct. Nick, that's what that was. Nice color. Yeah, see? And Nick, it doesn't look anything like that, does it? I mean, it looks somewhat like it, but it's not. Because here's a piece right here. And this isn't the color. I mean, okay. We've beat that horse many times, but now, Nick, you know exactly what the color is. All right, so Robert sent me a picture. Oh, you're talking about, okay, yeah, you're talking about that internal uh, support. Yes, yeah, that is it. Now that I'm not against at all, because it helps. Um, I'll show you the picture in a second. That helps to keep junk out of the backside of your shock tower, because there's a trough right there where the frame rail comes up and the shock tower, kind of sits on top of it. It creates this trough. But this is one idea that has been very popular. You weld it, you make this steel plate and you weld it in so that it seals off that area, keeps the junk from accumulating, and it stiffens, adds a little more strength. Um, but yeah, that's another good idea. I do like that, actually. Edward, I will definitely be adding that piece there. Yeah, no, that I'm okay with. um, that works for me. Okay. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, I did edit the video for the package shelf. Now, granted, it's not going to be some stellar, fantastic, eye-popping video. It's just I took the package shelf and I covered it with material and I put it in the car, but I gave a demonstration, because some people may or may not uh, have an idea how to do that stuff. And it worked out great. It looks great. And anyway, that video will be coming out tomorrow. So if everybody wants to get a look at that. Nick, yeah, definitely weird how it's that far off. But yeah, Dead Horse, I just wanted to say hi. I have to finish some stuff on the crud box, making moves here. Exciting stuff later. All right. Glad you're here, Nick. At least you checked in. Good. Good. Terry Keithley, hi, Barry. Yep, I'm late, but I'm here. Glad you're here, Terry. Glad you're here. There was something else. What was the other thing I was going to talk about? I don't know. My focus right now is to get the cluster in the car, get that done. But as we were mentioning it earlier, another thing that I'm probably going to have to think about is getting the mirrors in place, because I need to wire those into the system as well. And the only reason I'm really debating on that at the moment is because I still have to pull out the vent windows and redo the tracks and all that. I think I'll still be okay though. Even if I put the mirrors on, I can get those windows in and out. It shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem. Better not be a problem. I can't have that kind of problem. There's still some stuff I think on back order from from Kentucky Mustang. I'm waiting on some stuff to come in. I haven't even looked at it. I know I ordered new wiper arms, because I think I only have one. But that hasn't come in yet. So, Doyle, did you rewire Jade? No, I didn't rewire Jade the car. I mean, I didn't change the main structure. Like, I did put in a new front harness. When I started working on the car, I knew the front harness was bad. Somebody had cut it up, and I did replace the front harness. Everything else from the firewall back is original, except for the wiring. I don't know if I can show you or not, because I'm working on this right now. There's the gauges, my Dakota digital gauges that I'm putting in. So that's what I'm rewiring. That's what I'm working on, and I've got function on them. I've got a few, just a few more things I have to connect. But once I get it all tested out, then I'll get them mounted in the car. And really, once the gauges are in, things might steamroll a little bit, because the gauges, that's the last hold up, let's say, before I put in carpet, kick panels, uh, rear quarter panel filler pieces, the back seat. Yeah, I could get a lot of that done because the quarter windows are done. So really, if I had a carpet in the car right now, I could put in those other pieces. But I've been holding off on the carpet. I don't like to put carpet in until I have everything else kind of done. If you're cutting wires or modifying things and crawling in and out, you track dirt, you track junk in the carpet. So I'm trying to avoid that and um, you know save that for almost last. And then of course seats and all that sort of thing, and the steering wheel. I think you've seen the steering wheel that I bought for the car. If not, I can show it to you. Pretty cool steering wheel. Robert, I will be wiring the 66 from scratch as it only had a dash harness when I got it. I will not be using the factory bullet connectors. Those things are horrible. Yeah. Yeah. Not fun. Doyle, I was thinking of swapping to blade type fuse block. You could do that. You could do that. Now, what you might look at, there's a company called Rebel Wire. And I'm not saying this is going to be your best choice. I'm just giving you an option. You've got American Auto Wire, you've got painless wiring, um, and then this company called Rebel Wire is a company that I've used. I've used them on my dune buggy. So like I bought a wiring, fuse block for the dune buggy, and it really it was fantastic. It worked great. Now I don't know if they make one for the Mustang or whatever. I don't know. But if you're just looking for a good, simple, blade type block, that would probably work. I know that I was looking earlier. Hold on just a second. I was looking earlier at a fuse block that I had laying around because I tend to hang on to. I tend to hang on to wiring. I just have a stockpile. I have a big pile of wire. Uh, but this was actually in my dune buggy at one time. Now this only has it has eight. It has eight connections, um, or eight fuses, and this uses the slip-on little post, the like speaker connectors, and of course it's got these splitters here. So I had thought about. I'm still debating on this whether I want to incorporate this into the car because I've added some wiring for the vintage air setup, and I've added the wiring for the gauge cluster, and I just tapped into existing fuses. That's all I really did. Um, may not be the best idea, but uh, it works, But I did think about possibly using this thing, and that's still in the back of my mind. Hurst, that's nice. You can buy whatever you need. Gauges look great. Yeah, they're pretty cool gauges. I do like them. Robert, I will be using a generic harness with GM fuse box in the 66. Okay, that'll work. Ed, Great show, Barry. Keeps my mind off what is currently on the news. Yeah, that is not good news. There's no good news right now. Doyle, mine is rusty bad. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. If it's rusty, you might go ahead and swap it out. Robert, no, you have a huge rat's nest pile of wire that I almost tripped over. Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know. I wouldn't guess how much wire I actually have over beside the little blast cabinet, but yeah, there's a lot of wiring laying around. Ray, what do you think of the 72 Ranchero wiring similar to the Torino? I don't have an opinion on that. I've not messed with the Ranchero or the Torino. So I really can't give you any opinion on the wiring for that. I don't know if anybody else can give you. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts specifically? Um, I mean, what do we think about it as far as keeping it, replacing it? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but follow that up. Let's see. Rollo, can I use this box with the original wiring harness? So you're talking about like one of these type of things? Not directly. Not directly. What you'll have to do, and this is totally on your end. If you're going to use something like this, if you're going to be replacing, if you're going to be, replacing, you're going to be cutting something loose, because you're not just going to. There's no way to just pull a wire off and just slip it right on, you know. So just keep that in mind. Um, a new wiring harness is like $800 for one of these cars, but I mean, you can do it, but you just know you're going to have to like make connectors that'll slip onto stuff like this. And this is, I don't even know who made this. This is just an old thing that I had. This actually was in the dune buggy that I took this out and put in the Rebel wire kit. And that thing was fantastic. Replacing it. Okay. So as far as if I guess it's hard to answer the question, because when I look at wiring, things that I consider are, has it been chopped up? Have people cut things out and put it together and replace wires, or there's been stuff that's been melted? There's a lot of things that come into play with that. So you have to look at that first and then decide overall condition. Are there any cracked wires, or, anything that's falling apart, failing? If so, you're probably going to be chasing that for the rest of the life of the car. So at that point, you're probably further ahead to just buy a replacement harness, a new one, and swap things out. I haven't tried to like Robert was talking about rewiring individually each wire. I have not tried to do that. But I mean, you could look at it from that side too. Robert, cars of that era were all basically the same, and if you can wire one, you can wire another. Just that Ford wired their dome light circuit backwards. Okay. Rallo, I don't know. Raylo, I don't know how you're saying that. You're welcome. Yeah. Because the original circuit for these cars, I think, has 5 fuses, maybe. I think. And so, anytime you want to add something, it becomes more difficult. Now, of course, the advantage with me, if I added this, is it could be very simple to just add some power. I think, like in this case, if I'm not mistaken, this center strip is your like power supply, and then it comes down and it branches out into the fuses. So that should be, I believe that's how that works. Yeah. And so if I just brought in a power supply off the battery, I could easily add whatever connections I wanted, and I can also swap out the fuses for whatever size fuse that I wanted. So I'm still debating on this. I'm not totally convinced yet, but I'm thinking about it. It's nice to have stuff that you don't have to, like the little round fuses. Those are no fun to change. These are a lot easier. You can just grab and pull them out with your fingers. So there are advantages to this kind. But anyway, if you want to check out Rebel Wire and just see what they offer, and maybe it'll interest you. Doyle, your block have a flasher relay. The fuse block in the 68? No. There's no slot for the flasher to plug into. No. Under the dash, above the column, there are 2 flashers. There's one, I think it's one for the turn signal and one for the 4-ways, I think. I know there's two modules in there. There's a short one and there's a long one. I could be wrong. I know it used to be you could have the flasher would operate off of the same circuit. So but there's two in this car, and I don't know if that other one is actually the flasher or if it's some other contraption that they put in there. I don't know. But as far as plugging it directly into the fuse block, no, it's not set up that way. Not set up that way. Okay. I need some coffee. Hang on. So anyway, I'm going to have another video coming out on my Joe Daddy's Workshop channel. I don't know when I'll get that out, but if you watched the last video that my wife and I made, we did some work on our camper, put up some siding on the carport thing, and that was kind of entertaining. We almost had a fiasco, bad thing happen, but anyway, so my wife and I made that together, and I'm going to. I talked about it on Thursday. That was something else that tied me up last week. Was I had a mailbox failure, and what I mean by that is, old pressure treated wood. And I mean old pressure treated wood from 30 years ago. It seems like it'll last forever and ever and ever and ever. Modern stuff will not. And I had replaced my mailbox, put up a 4x4 post, one of the posts you buy for a mailbox, pressure treated, and the thing rotted off. It actually just rotted off. So I had to fabricate a new mailbox, and I made a little video on that. And I'm gonna edit that up and get that on the workshop channel. So it was kind of fun not fun, but it was interesting that I found something that I can make a mailbox post out of at the local scrap metal place. So I didn't use wood. It's made out of metal, as it should be. Metal is always better. Derek, great idea. They all build up dirt in that area. Gotta go, guys. Stay safe, everyone. Keep supporting Barry. He's a legend. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate that. Robert sent a pic of the style harness. Ah, okay. Now, who makes that one, Robert? See if I can get that up here quick. Who makes that harness? That gives you plenty of fuses, that's for sure. And the relays. All right, welder. There's a grade of pressure treated lumber rated for ground contact. Wonder if you have the non-ground contact version. All I know is the assembly post that I bought was for a mailbox. It was for a mailbox, and I put it in concrete, and it rotted off. It rotted off above the concrete. So, I mean, maybe I'm just assuming that the a mailbox post should be rated to go to the ground. Maybe I'm just assuming that. But that's a good point. Thank you for that. Robert, most all the harness companies make them. It's a generic street rod one. Okay. Brian, yes, you're right, Barry. I put up my mailbox 21 years ago when I built my house, and it is still going strong. Yeah. The last post that I had up, I only took it out because somebody hit it and it twisted and snapped. And that's why I replaced it. So I would assumed that it, the wood should last. Why else would they say a mailbox post? Anyway, 27. I just watched your epoxy video. I see you have a blue car A blue car like my truck will be. Did the black epoxy give you a hard time with coverage? Does the Summit stuff? Oh, is it tintable? That I don't know of. I mean, it's a black, but I don't know if you could tint the epoxy or not. I have no idea. You have a blue car. I'm assuming you're talking about this car, which it technically is not blue. It's not blue. It's okay. It's all right. It's aqua. Edward, I always solder connections. Those crimp connectors aren't too great unless you put shrink tube over them. Yeah, that's a good call, Edward. Robert, I have a new fuse block somewhere and can make it from scratch, but the price of the harness with the wire is cheaper than buying more wire. Yeah. Yep. Dave, I'm thinking big mailbox on a coil spring set into concrete. That would be nice. That would be nice, but no, I did not do that. Doyle is saying you can tint white. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I didn't even notice if Summit sells it in white. I'm assuming they do. I don't know. But yeah, you could tint the white somehow. But I'm not familiar with their whole product line. Brian, also, if you use concrete, you only use on the top third to allow drainage. This will make it last longer. Yeah. I mean, again, here's the first mailbox that I had. Well, the mailbox post that was here when we moved here in 1991. That post stayed up until about 2 years ago when somebody hit it and snapped it off. And then this other post that I put up didn't last 2 years. It just crumbled, rotted away. And the first one was in concrete, the whole thing, solid concrete. And mine, I put in, I dug a hole, I had a nice round hole. Or actually used the hole that the old stuff was in because I pulled it out and, put it in concrete all the way around. So I don't know. I know they don't pressure treat. It doesn't seem like they pressure treat wood as good as they used to, or they've changed the chemical mix or something. Because I know I have landscape timbers that actually have been here again since we moved here. They've been sitting outside in the woods, and they look just as good now as they did when we moved in. So, gamer guy, my mailbox that I put in just dirt 31 years ago is still standing. Okay, that's a good thing. And it is treated wood. Yeah. Robert, my fence posts are made out of 2 3/8 drill pipe, 3/8 inch wall thickness. If I have to do the mailbox again, it will be out of that pipe as well. Well, Robert, I actually had an idea before I found this piece of metal that I used for the mailbox. I was looking around my shop, going, what could I make a mailbox post out of? And I'm looking around, and I have, I think, 4 random drive shafts. I don't even know what they're from. I don't remember. I don't remember anymore what they're from. And I thought, you know what? I could just cut off one drive shaft at a 45-degree angle, cut another one at a 45-degree angle, create a base, and then just weld on some angle iron and mount the mailbox. But I did, find what I consider probably the perfect piece of scrap that is holding up I put up my mailbox with now. Welder, I took down a wood fence in 2017, was installed in 84. All the posts set in concrete were rotted. All of the ones in dirt were like new. Yeah, well, it could be me. It could be that I made a bad decision when I used the concrete, but I know right now the new post that I put up is in concrete and it's not going anywhere unless somebody hits it. Then I'll be really upset because it's a really nice post now. 2732, in case my mailbox with brick, the plow truck makes sure he doesn't hit it anymore with the wing and he doesn't fill the end of the driveway. Win-win. Yeah. Brian just found that paint sample you sent Barry. It's a beautiful green. See? It's nothing. It's not this color. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. That's not the color. See? Brian saw it. Nick saw it. And I forget who the other. I had sent someone to somebody else. But now you know. Now you know. It's remarkable how much of a difference that is, isn't it? Between what you see right there and the actual color of the car that is in the color samples. No, I'm not going to send everybody a sample. Unless you order a hat. If you order a hat, I'll send you a color sample. How about that? There you go. You want to know exactly what it looks like? Order a hat. Robert, drill pipe is cheaper than thin wall metal fence posts. They cannot recycle it because of the low level radioactivity from drilling in the earth. Interesting. So there must be a lot of that out in Texas, I'm assuming, because I don't even think we have a. I don't know of any place we'd have drill pipe around here. So. Roger says, make a donation. Yeah. You get the color sample, make a donation. Send you a box with this thing that weighs nothing. 2732. I'm going dark midnight blue with metallic. It's a 79 F-150 short bed. That's a cool truck. That's a cool truck. Good. Robert, lots and lots of it here. Yeah, the post. And welder, side benefit, the fence post glow in the dark. Speaking of which, you got me thinking here. You know, I've said it before. I drive for Uber during the week at night. I just like it. I enjoy driving around and just burning up gas, I guess. But I deliver food, and the other night, I think it was Saturday. I think it was Saturday night. I was off pretty good distance away from the house, and I'm driving back, and I'm following my GPS, on my phone is telling me to go whatever on the roads. And I'm like, this doesn't look right. This just doesn't look right. And the main road is it's like a 6-lane road. And it's telling me to turn onto the 2-lane that I normally turn onto. I'm like, boy, this just doesn't look right. And then I notice there are no lights. No lights anywhere. You know how creepy that is? Whenever you're used to seeing, there's a Quick Trip gas station on the corner where I need to turn. And that place is lit up like a Christmas tree all the time, right? The street lights, there's no street lights. That is out. The traffic light is out. Cars are kind of just shuffling their way through the intersection. There is nothing. And, when you're used to seeing light pollution, that's what they call, all the lights, light pollution. Literally thousands of lights every day, and especially at night. And you turn into a certain area and you're like, where am I? This is totally foreign right now. And so I was driving, and as I'm driving, I drove probably 4 miles, 3 or 4 miles, and there was no lights at all. There was no house lights. There was no street lights. And again, this is an area where it's always lit up. And it was just really weird. But what was lit up, we're talking about glow in the dark, was all the people that had the little solar lights. They put them up at their mailbox or have them in front of their porch or whatever. Every so often you would see the little mushroom lights, glowing. And that's what made me think of that whenever you're talking about glow in the dark. That's all there really was those sort of things. Edward, Just signed up on Patreon. I look forward to more great content. Thank you. Thank you, Edward. I appreciate that. Roger, Robert, grab some next time you come this way. Contractors have not been kind to my mailbox post. Yeah, that is true. They did not do a good job with that. In fact, he had to have they knocked his mailbox post over and then relocated it to the other side of his driveway so they wouldn't hit it again. Andy, the color on Jade is Gulfstream Aqua or some other color? It is Gulfstream Aqua, or another name for it is, what do they call it? Bright Aqua Blue Poly, I think is the other trade name. But Gulfstream Aqua is the color. And where do I have it? No, that's not it. Where do I put the paint can? Oh. No, that's not it either. Paint can's sitting here somewhere. But it's, I think the other colors, the name is Aqua Blue, Bright Aqua Blue call. Blah, 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 blah. Bright Aqua Blue Poly. But I prefer Gulfstream Aqua. That's what it's supposed to be. Where did I put it? Here we go. Yeah. So its other trade name is DK Bright Aqua Poly, is what it says. But Gulfstream Aqua. The paint code, somebody asked me about that earlier in one of my videos. The paint code is F, as in Frank. 2732 Patreon. Yes. If you go to any of my videos, and you go in the description box, there is a link for Patreon. And what it is, and I'll just be upfront and honest, YouTube does not pay me very well at all. YouTube does not pay me very well, especially for what I consider all the content that I put out. I don't get near the reward that I feel like I should. But I do have people that help me out. And what they do is they sign up on Patreon and they make a donation, essentially. And so the offset, like from what I make on YouTube, is not enough to live on. I can tell you that. But it helps to have people on Patreon to support me, so I can continue to make these kind of videos. You know, I had a conversation with my son, one of my sons and my daughter. They showed me a video that was on YouTube, and the video was basically this guy on one of the Alpine slide, like a rail thing, you know, where you go through the mountain and you ride down the rail. And I can't believe they even posted this on, because talk about, you're not supposed to show anything, you know, violent or whatever. No, nothing with whatever. And basically this guy, he was on this Alpine track thing, and the woman in front of him kept stopping, and he'd wait for them to get ahead, and then he'd catch up to him or whatever. And eventually he just slammed into this woman, and he slammed into her so hard that he knocked her unconscious. And that was posted on YouTube. That video has like 3 million views. And what does that mean? Well, 3 million views means that the dollars are rolling in for that video. And instead of, you know, to me, that video shouldn't even be on there because it's violence, you know, whatever. But no, they make money off of it, so they keep showing those sort of things. But my point is, YouTube promotes junk like that because it makes them money. They don't promote stuff like what I do because it really doesn't make them money, because they don't see it. So anyway, I appreciate all the people that are helping me out with Patreon and Amazon too. And there's an Amazon link in my description for all of my videos. If you click on the Amazon link and you order something, it doesn't have to be anything on my page. It could be house supplies, whatever. Then I get a little kickback. from that. I mean, it's a little kickback, but it's something. So all that helps in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, if you want to look at Patreon, it's in the link in the description box. Robert, I finally checked the paint codes on my 66, and it was actually beige. Lots of it under stuff, but I couldn't accept someone bought a beige. No. Bill, hi, Jude's Garage. Does poly mean light metallic? I don't know exactly what poly means. Um, it's essentially just a name. It's I don't know for sure. But Gulfstream Aqua is the color that you would see on this car. But I don't know what the breakdown is, for what the terms are. Because back then they made their own names for the cars, or colors for the cars. So, Dave, anyone else's comments stop loading? I'm suddenly only seeing mine. You probably it's you, Dave. You have to back out and come back. 2732, an easy enough explanation. I enjoy your videos and learning. I have no issues once this is done going and signing up to support the channel. Awesome. The thing is, and I've talked about this before, and this is where it gets kind of bothersome. I have 50,800 subscribers or something like that, close to 51,000 subscribers. And if everybody who was subscribed to me would watch my videos, because my videos they'll still have 1,000 views, 1,500 views. If everybody that actually subscribed watched my videos, then I would be making more revenue off of YouTube. But it seems like I get subscribers, and then I only get like I said, the videos get 1,000 views. Now I have some videos that have hundreds of thousands of views, honestly, but the bulk of my videos probably 1,500, 2,500, 3,000. And that doesn't pay the bills like you think it would. But I again, I appreciate any kind of support that I can get. Dave, try exiting the live chat and then re-entering. There you go. Numa, you still have the tarp over your door. I have not put it up yet. A lot of the reason I haven't is because I forgot about it. But I did have it up all last summer. It helped tremendously. It really did. But now that I'm thinking about it, I should get the tarps back out. I think part of the reason I forgot about it was the tarps are like behind and under and covered up with stuff, and they're not in my vision. So I just forgot about it. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about that earlier in the week, because somebody else had commented on my on that video. So, and I know somebody had said, "Hope you don't have an HOA or anything." No, nobody's going to say anything about it. There's no HOA here. 27. Well, I'm deployed right now, so when I'm in my room, I binge watch YouTube videos, so I'll help get the count up. Hell, that'll work. That'll work too. I mean, that helps, because there's things with the algorithm with YouTube. They focus on the amount of views, the length of time that people watch. That's what they focus on. Subscriber count doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's all about length of time and number of views and likes. I can't stress it enough. Hitting that like button doesn't hurt anybody, but it helps the video, because then YouTube goes, "Hey, wait a minute. People are watching this and are liking the video. We should promote this more. Get it out there, get more people watching." So that helps too. But I appreciate any support that I can get. Any support. Okay. All right. I've got a few things to think about, because now I have to consider more about this fuse block if I want to use it. because I could definitely tie this in and feel a little better about how I have it wired up without adding any other a bigger fuse block to the car, because I still need to. Well, it shouldn't be that big a deal. One of the things I have to do is connect the radio too, the new radio that I'm going to be putting in, and um, I know that there should be an existing radio power supply, but these modern radios need a live feed to keep them to save the memory. It has to have a memory save. So I really may need to look at this a little harder and really consider it. Robert, seems like a lot of people just subscribe to lots of channels and never watch anything. I need a bunch of those people. Yeah, you do, Robert. You do. Roger, yeah, 27. Thank you for your service. Yes, 2732. Definitely, thank you for your service. Thank you. That's it's. I don't know where you're at right now, but I know that there's some ugly stuff going on over in the sandbox. Ugly stuff, and it's a mess. It's just a big mess. I know that one of the guy, well, the motorcycle guy, the Triumph that I'm working on, he was over in the sandbox, and he's not there anymore, thankfully. Because they had to scoot, had to get out of there. Once those decisions were made, it just became chaos. So hopefully it doesn't become another big fiasco, but we'll skip past that. I don't want to get into that right now. David, I have a 71 Challenger. Someone put a lot of Bondo on the rear quarter panel. They filled in the groove that was there. How do I make it look like the other side? How do you make it look like the other side? Well, why does it have a lot of Bondo in it? Was it hit? Is it rusted? Do you know what the condition is underneath as to why they did all that, junk to it? It's probably they filled in the groove that was there. So it's a groove, and I'm trying to think about the Challenger, how they're put together. There's like a if you're talking about like on the Mustang, you've got a quarter comes down and it meets the rocker panel. You're talking about that groove, or are you talking about where it meets up above where the trunk is at that groove, where the deck filler, what they call the deck filler panel, meets the quarter, and that's where the seam is for the trunk lid, where the line would be. So really, we probably need to figure out what's going on, why it's got all this material on it, to really address the answer. Now, what I would suggest, because if it's got Bondo, that much Bondo on it, something's wrong. Either it was hit or it's rusted out and they just hit it all, because I ran into that with a 68 Camaro that I did. Same situation. Somebody had put a quarter on a deck filler panel. They filled everything in and hit it. And then they took a cutoff wheel and they cut a groove where they thought the seam was supposed to be. And that was the giveaway when I started really looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right here. And I ended up cutting everything off the car because they did a horrible job. So what I will suggest, if you do have that kind of problem where you've got rust or body damage that can't be fixed, you need to probably go to AMD, Auto Metal Direct, and get you a quarter panel. That'll be my suggestion. And replace it, assuming they have it in stock. But AMD, Auto Metal Direct, is your place to go for Mopar stuff. And Camaros, stuff like that. They don't make much in the way of Fords. But really, you need to figure out what's going on underneath it before you can really answer the question, work on the answer. Let's see. 2732, my second time. Now the sandbox always sucks. Yes. Yeah, and I hate it for you, man. I really do. I really do. I really do. It's a mess over there. It's just a mess. Roberts, $400 to AMD panel, not in stock. Well, thank you, Robert. But still, AMD is your source. You know, if you're going to get a quarter panel, that's where to get it from. Now, you have to wait till they get it in stock. Had to look it up, and far cheaper than Charger sheet metal. Okay. Well, the Charger is like quarter panel is like 8 feet long. Um, you know, it's giant. Okay. All right. That's probably a good sign. I'm like out of coffee. I'm probably going to call tonight. I've been, running this show about 2 hours on Mondays, and usually maybe an hour on Thursdays, maybe. So it's a long time to be sitting here just rambling on. Edward, on my 610 Mustang restoration, I've got one quarter panel dented and hammered bad. Is it better to bodywork it smooth or weld on a new quarter section? Well, it depends. When you say hammered bad, what part of the quarter panel, and really how bad? If it's original metal, and there's any way you can save that, then save it. Now, if it's the lower rear quarter, and you can want to piece it in, buy yourself the 80% skin. Don't buy the patch panel. The patch panels don't have the right stamping. You need to get the skin, and it'll have the correct stamping at the bottom. At least I know for the 65 and 6 that is correct. Ed, if the Mustang is aqua, what color is your coffee cup? Blue? Actually, surprisingly enough, that color is almost right, but it is a little bit more green. But yeah, that color is almost right on the coffee cup. So I don't know why the car is showing up so different. Leonard, has anyone used Parts Geek on getting parts for your car? I haven't. Anybody has Parts Geek? Anyone? Edward, lower section, small holes poked through from bad hammer work. Lower section rear, I guess, like the behind the wheel well. I'm assuming. Still, if you can save it, and you're saying small holes poked through, that's probably where they had put in the old style dent pullers. They would drill a hole and put a hook in there and just yank on it and try to pull out as much as they could. Modern stuff would be where they use this little spot welder, little spot dent puller, and you tack on the looks like a nail, and you have a little slide hammer and you slide it out, just pop, pop, pop. I've used those a lot and I like the results. So I would probably prefer, if you can save it, to save what you have and use the spot dent puller, to slide that stuff out. That's my opinion. Then you can tack weld the little hole shut. So if it's not rusted, try to save it. Jeff, awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. You're one of my best supporters, Jeff, honestly. Overall, in fact, you're probably number one. You're probably number one when it comes to support. I appreciate you very much. So Ed says, yes, the lower rear. Yep. Andy, 68 lower quarter patch Virginia Mustang has two panels. One is a right stamping and one is wrong. Okay. Did they tell you that? If one is right and one is wrong? Because I know I've dealt with it on the Mystique Mustang. I was giving a quarter patch lower right quarter, and the stamping was so wrong. It was like a cover. You wouldn't even you would like just cover up stuff with it, weld it together, and smear Bondo on it. And it was one of those what we call a slap sell type situation, where you just like put that patch on it, tack it on, throw some Bondo on it, paint it, and sell it, and let the next guy worry about it. So I did a repair on that where I had cut out the 80% quarter and pieced it in from a skin. I used the skin. And it looks as bad as a Ruffles chip. Well, it can be saved. Trust me. It can be saved. 2732, Edward, a planishing hammer will help because you can get to the back. You can get to the back if it's lower or rear. Yeah, that could work too. Andy, both are still available. Just pick the right ones up last weekend. Okay. Leonard, thumbs up. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Roger, Barry would save it if it looked like a bag of walnuts. Yes. I would try anyway. I would try. Bob Shoemaker, Parts Geek, shipped from factory, and it came in some 10 days after ordering, so had shipping time. You got me thinking, Parts Geek, I'm not sure if they tried to get me to sign up with them like a few years back, and I never did, like to use them on the channel. I think it was, I don't know, somebody had contacted me. It was carparts.com. Carparts.com, not Parts Geek. Carparts.com. And I never did sign up with them. Maybe I should have. Robert, JC, when you used to sell lots of that overlay sheet metal, makes me think that's why the aftermarket rear frame rails basically fit over the stock ones. They're very possible. And there may be some, tooling liability. Let's say that they say, well, this isn't the exact thing as a Ford piece because we're not allowed to sell the exact Ford piece. We can make a copy that looks like the Ford piece, but, anyway, maybe that's how that works. Andy, they have pictures of both on their site also. Okay. So that was, again, you were talking about Virginia Mustang. Has two panels. One is the right stamping and one is wrong. Yeah. 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 The one I was given from Mystique Mustang. Oh, it was terrible. It was just terrible. And I could not, I cut it up. I made patches out of it for something else. I used it as just sacrificial material. I hang on to sheet metal. I have a friend of mine gave me. He used to do part shipping, and he picked up a quarter panel for a 75 Camaro that it was bent, in the shipping, and they said just throw it away. We'll send you another one. So he brought it over to me. He says, "Hey, do you want this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I forget what I actually used it in one of my videos. I made a patch panel. What was that? I don't forget what it was on. But it was like, oh, it was the fender. When I did the front fender on Jade, the curve that I needed was part of that panel. It was just right. And I cut off that section and merged it into the fender on this car. So that's why I hang on to stuff like that. I try. I have tossed a lot of things. In fact, if you look at the valance video that I did for this car, when I customized the front valance, I used a fender off of a Nissan minivan that a friend of mine, she had hit somebody and asked me to fix it for her, and I fixed it for her, and I saved that fender for a long time. That was the sacrificial piece that I used to make that valance panel out of, the curve section in the front. So I try to hang on to stuff. I can't hang on to everything, but I would if I could, but I just can't. So anyway, okay. It's been 2 hours. I need to get in the house. Rain's coming down, and I have a bag of chips waiting for me. I found a bag of chips today that surprisingly, I stop in at Ollie's. If you have an Ollie's store anywhere near you, they have discounted stuff, whatever. It's kind of like a variation of Big Lots. And I went in there today to just check on snacks. I like chips and junk. And they had a chip bag there um, from basically where I grew up in Pennsylvania. And it's Snyder's. If you ever heard of Snyder's potato chips, there's two companies. They're split. There's Snyder's of Hanover, Maryland, and Snyder's of Berlin, Pennsylvania. And what's crazy about it is somehow they're connected. Obviously, the name, even their bags are identical, except one says Snyder's of Hanover, one says Snyder's of Berlin. So you never find in Georgia. I've seen Snyder's of Hanover. I've never seen a Snyder's of Berlin, but I saw one today. I was very surprised. So I had to buy it. Anyway, just some useless information. But I'm going to call it a night. I want to get on tomorrow. I'm going to get back on the gauge cluster, try to get that put in, get the mirrors, possibly work on those, get them on the car, make sure all that stuff works before I actually mount the cluster in the car. And once that happens, then I can start rolling forward, get the steering wheel in, get the carpet in, get the seats in, all that stuff. So anyway, it's been a good night. We had a pretty good turnout, averaging about 50 people, and that's good. So we'll do this again on Thursday at 3:00, and maybe I'll have a more update for you. And hopefully everybody has a good week. Until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.